My wife tried to poison me slowly, so I let her think it worked. It started with the tea. Always the tea. Opra had gotten into this wellness phase, her words, not mine, about a year ago. Herbal teas, detox smoothies, turmeric shots. I didn't think much of it. After all, she'd always been the type to chase trends. Yoga retreats in Bali, keto for 3 months, then raw vegan for a week before giving up and ordering pepperoni pizza. I loved her for that chaotic energy. But this time, something felt different. "I made your favorite," she said one morning, setting a steaming mug in front of me. Her smile was radiant, her eyes soft and concerned. Chamomile with a touch of valerian root. "You've been so stressed lately." I had been, or so I thought. I'd been sleeping more than usual, falling asleep at my desk, forgetting little things like where I left my keys or whether I locked the front door. I chalked it up to work pressure. My firm was in the middle of a massive design contract, and the deadlines were insane, but the fog didn't lift when the project ended. It thickened. I remember the first time I really felt scared. I was driving to the grocery store, something I've done 1,000 times. But halfway there, I suddenly didn't recognize the street. I didn't know where I was or where I was going. I had to pull over and sit for 20 minutes gripping the steering wheel like it could anchor me to reality. When I told Opra, she just touched my cheek and said, "You've been overworking yourself, baby. Let me take care of you for a while." And she did. She brought me tea every morning, warm soup at night. She stopped asking me to do things around the house, which, at first, felt like a blessing. Then it started to feel strategic. The house, by the way, was beautiful. A charming 2-story cottage just outside the city. It had wide windows that let in morning light, wood beams along the ceiling, and a kitchen so cozy it could be on the cover of a lifestyle magazine. Opra had decorated every inch, plants on every sill, neutral tones, candles with names like whispering cedar and fog and sage. It was, in every way, the kind of home that made you feel safe. So why didn't I? I went to a doctor. I told him I felt foggy, lethargic, like I was walking underwater. Blood work, clean. Neurological exam, normal. Maybe stress, he said. Maybe mild depression. "You're not getting any younger." I wanted to believe him. I really did. Then came the day I knocked over my tea mug. It was stupid, really. I reached across the counter for my phone, and my elbow tipped the cup. Tea spilled across the marble, running down the drawers. Opra was upstairs, on a Zoom call. As I cleaned, I noticed something in the bottom of the mug. A gritty, pale residue clinging to the porcelain. I frowned, ran a finger through it. It was chalky. Not from the tea bag, not from honey, something else. My chest tightened. I dumped the rest in the sink and rinsed the cup, suddenly hyper-aware of the lingering smell. Herbal, yes, but also metallic, slightly bitter. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, the shadows from the ceiling fan slicing the room into fragments. Opra breathed softly beside me, her back turned. I started remembering the little things. How she always brought me tea, never drank it herself. How she stopped taking meals with me. How she began suggesting naps, gently pushing me back to bed, telling me I looked so tired. At breakfast, I pretended to sip the tea. She watched me, smiling over the rim of her own glass of water. I smiled back, and that was when something inside me shifted. If she was doing what I suspected, I couldn't confront her. Not yet. Not until I knew for sure. Not until I understood why. So I kept drinking the tea. Or at least, I let her think I did. The next morning, I didn't drink the tea. I pretended, of course, brought the cup to my lips, let it brush against them, even made a little sound like I was sipping. But not a single drop touched my tongue. Opra smiled, as usual. "Feeling any better today?" she asked, setting down the honey jar like she always did. "Think so," I replied. "Still foggy, but maybe a little sharper." She beamed. "Good. I think all this rest is finally helping." I nodded and forced a smile back. I had no idea how to keep acting normal, but I knew I had to. That day, while she was at her Pilates class, I ordered a hidden camera online. One of those little ones you can stick inside a clock or a smoke detector. Overnight delivery. It was a risk, but one I had to take. In the meantime, I started watching. Really watching. I noticed how she always insisted on preparing the tea herself, how she never asked what flavor I wanted, just made it for me, how she never left the kitchen while the kettle was boiling. 2 mornings later, the camera arrived. I hid it in the corner of the kitchen near the coffee mugs, angled perfectly toward the stovetop and the counter. The first time I watched the footage, nothing happened. The second time, I saw it. She waited until the water boiled, pulled down a small white bottle from the top shelf, one I didn't recognize. She unscrewed it quickly, glancing toward the hallway. Then she tipped something into my mug. Not a packet, not honey, just a little tap-tap of what looked like ground-up powder. I paused the video, rewound, watched again. There was no label on the bottle, no name, no instructions, just a plain white cylinder, like something you'd get from a shady vitamin store or a very private prescription. My hands were shaking. That night, after Opra fell asleep, I slipped into the bathroom and checked every drawer, every cabinet. I didn't find it in the medicine cabinet, or her makeup bag, or even the towel closet. But in the back of the sink drawer, behind her spare contact cases and travel toothbrush, I found it. White. Plastic. No label. Inside were small, smooth, pale pills. Odorless. Tasteless, probably. And very real. I took 3 and put them into a sealed sandwich bag. The next morning, I drove to the pharmacy 2 towns over and told the technician I'd found them in my late uncle's things. I'm just trying to figure out what they are. He gave me a look but scanned the pill with a little handheld identifier. Then he frowned. This isn't over the counter. It's a prescription sedative. Real strong stuff. Not meant for long-term use unless supervised. I swallowed. Side effects? Drowsiness, mental fog, short-term memory problems, sluggish thinking. You shouldn't be on this unless a doctor is tracking you closely. Especially not every day. I left the pharmacy with a cold pit in my stomach. It wasn't just in my head. It was in the tea. She was drugging me. On purpose. And not to kill me, at least not fast. No. This was worse in a way. Slower. Smarter. Designed to make me seem broken, confused, maybe even insane. By the time I got home, I couldn't look at her the same way. That night, she ran her fingers through my hair and kissed my forehead. "You've seemed better lately," she murmured. "I think it's finally helping. Helping. I said nothing, just nodded and let my eyes drift closed. But inside, I was crumbling. This wasn't just betrayal. It was annihilation. She was trying to erase me, one foggy day at a time. And I still didn't know why. It didn't start like this. I remember the first time I met Opra like it was yesterday. A little cafe downtown, rain drizzling outside, soft jazz playing in the background. She was sitting alone with a novel in one hand and a half-finished cappuccino in the other. I asked if the seat was taken. She said, "It is now." God, she was magnetic. She made me laugh harder than anyone ever had. Listened when I talked about my dreams. Back then, I was still writing freelance pieces and trying to sell my first screenplay. She said I had talent, real talent. She told me I just needed someone to believe in me. She was that someone. She used to call herself my muse, half joking. She said I was her project, that she saw greatness in me, and I believed her. Back then, it felt like love, like support. But looking back now, it wasn't love. It was control. She helped me organize my schedule, at first to give me more time to write. Then she started doing our taxes, then paying our bills. Eventually, she had access to every password, every login. She said she just wanted to make my life easier. And I let her. It was small things at first. She didn't like my friends from college, said they were immature, a distraction. One by one, I stopped seeing them. She didn't like me drinking coffee after 2 p.m. because it made me edgy, so I quit. She said clutter made her anxious, so all my old books, posters, and weird collectibles slowly vanished from our shelves. Even the dog I wanted? Too much responsibility, she said. It'll just stress you out. And the kids. Well, we talked about having them, once, maybe twice, but every time I brought it up, she had another reason. Her career, my stress, the state of the world. "We have a perfect life," she said once, while curling into me by the fire. Let's not ruin it with diapers and daycare. It all made sense at the time. Logical, reasonable, but now I see it. She didn't want kids because they'd change the dynamic. Give me something else to love, someone else to protect. So now I lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, and ask myself, why? Why poison me? Why so slowly? Is it the money? I mean, I'm not rich. But lately, with the screenplay optioned and some investments finally paying off, maybe she wanted full control. If I lost my mental sharpness, she'd probably get power of attorney. She'd control everything I earned, everything I built. Or maybe it's not money. Maybe it's just power. She was always the one steering the ship. She didn't want a partner. She wanted a passenger. A quiet, agreeable man who stayed in his lane, smiled for family photos, and didn't make waves. Or maybe it's someone else. Someone who whispered in her ear that life could be better without me in it. The idea that she might have a lover twists my stomach into knots. But it makes sense, doesn't it? If I'm weak, confused, declining, she could play the grieving, selfless wife while starting a new chapter with someone else. God, was she planning to put me in a facility? I walked past the fireplace last night and saw an old photo, one from our first Christmas together. I was wearing that awful reindeer sweater, and she was laughing with her hand on my cheek. We looked happy, but even then, I noticed something in her eyes I hadn't seen before, like she knew she'd already won. I started forgetting things. On purpose. The first time, it was my keys. I made sure to leave them in the fridge next to the eggs. When Opra found them, she gave me that smile again. That same soft, condescending smile I'd come to recognize like a blade wrapped in silk. "Oh, honey," she said, brushing her fingers over my cheek. "Maybe you should lie down." I nodded. I looked away, pretending to be embarrassed. "I think you're right." And just like that, the game began. I had to move carefully, quietly. She was smart, too smart to get reckless unless she thought she'd already won. So I let her keep thinking that. I started slurring words sometimes. I faked confusion when she gave me directions. I repeated questions, left the oven on, forgot people's names. I practiced in the mirror when she wasn't home, what confusion looked like, what it felt like. She didn't question it. If anything, she seemed satisfied. She brought me more tea. She insisted on helping me with bills, passwords, paperwork. She began organizing my calendar so I wouldn't get overwhelmed. Her tone was always sweet, always patient, but her eyes? Her eyes were calculating. I watched her closely. I made sure she saw me falter, stumble, mumble. And then I started recording. At first it was small things. I left my phone on the kitchen counter, screen facing down, while she cooked or made my tea. I caught little bits, harmless chatter mostly. But then one night I heard her in her office, whispering on a call. "I just need the paperwork done before he really goes. He's not the same anymore. Yes, medical power of attorney. No, he won't fight it." That night, I installed a discreet voice recorder inside the air vent in her office. There's a man named Detective Ramos. I found him online. Small agency, former NYPD, clean record. I used a fake email, encrypted messages, cash in an unmarked envelope. I didn't want Opra sniffing anything. We met once, in a strip mall parking lot behind a run-down pet grooming place. He wore sunglasses and a leather jacket that made him look more like a movie cliché than a real investigator. "You sure you want to know what she's doing?" he asked. "I already know," I said. "I just need proof." He gave a small nod. "I'll be discreet. Cameras, tailing, digital pulls. Give me a week." I handed him a photo of Opra and the license plate of her car. "She goes to a law office on Fairmont once a week," I added. "I think she's preparing something." He didn't ask more questions, just got to work. I also started keeping a diary, but not on my laptop. I found an old burner phone from back when I used to draft stories on the go. I tucked it into the back of an unused shoebox in the garage and wrote in it every night. My entries weren't long, just dates, patterns, what tea she gave me, what she said, who she called, what bills she paid or suddenly took over, the name of the law office she visited, every strange behavior I noticed. I wanted a record, in case anything happened to me, in case I did start to lose my mind for real. There was one night, a few weeks in, where she brought me dinner in bed. Pasta, garlic bread, a little salad, and of course, my nightly chamomile. I let it sit untouched for a while. Then I took a sip and pretended to get dizzy. I dropped the glass. It shattered on the hardwood floor. Tea splashed onto the rug. Opra rushed in. "Hugh, are you okay?" I blinked slowly, dazed. I forgot where I was," I whispered. She crouched beside me, brushing my hair back. "Oh, sweetie," she cooed. "It's okay, I'll take care of you." And in that moment, I knew she believed it. She believed I was slipping. She believed she was winning. But what she didn't know was that every move she made now was being watched, recorded, time-stamped. She thought she was turning me into a puppet. But I was learning how to cut the strings. The manila envelope was thicker than I expected. Detective Ramos handed it to me without a word. We stood in the corner of a dimly lit parking garage, the kind that always smells faintly of gasoline and dust. A flickering fluorescent bulb overhead buzzed like a wasp. I didn't open the envelope right away. I just stared at it, heavy in my hands, heavier in meaning. "She's been busy," Ramos said, voice low. "Meeting with a guardianship attorney twice a week. Downtown office. Name's Feldman. They specialize in mental competency cases." I looked up. "Guardianship?" "Yeah. She's filing preemptive documents, letters from a fake neurologist, some behavior logs. She's painting a picture. Slow, careful, calculated. If I didn't know what you told me, I'd think you were slipping too." I opened the envelope. Inside were photocopies, emails, appointment logs, a drafted petition for temporary conservatorship, medical forms she'd partially filled out, including a declaration that I was no longer able to reliably manage financial affairs. My hands shook. "She's not trying to kill me," I muttered. "Nope," Ramos said. "She wants control. Full legal authority over you, your money, your assets, probably even your health directives." I flipped through the next set of photos. One of them caught me by the throat. It was Opra, in her usual camel coat, standing outside a sleek downtown restaurant, leaning in close to a man. Mid-40s, tall, clean-cut, too polished to be just a friend. His hand was on the small of her back. Her face was lit with a smile I hadn't seen in months. "She meets him twice a week," Ramos said. "Different places. Never the same day or time. They're careful, but not that careful. Who is he?" Still running that down. But I'd bet my badge it's not just business. I couldn't breathe for a second. That's when the rage hit. Not hot and explosive, but cold. Surgical. Focused. She wasn't trying to kill me. She wanted me alive. Just not me. Not someone with freedom or rights or a voice. Just a shell she could manage. Someone to nod along while she moved my money, sold the house, played the grieving wife to her new man, while I rotted in a care home with soft music and sponge baths. It would have been cleaner if she'd used something lethal, but Opra always liked control more than closure. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room in the dark, lit only by the blue glow of the fish tank we kept in the corner. The filter hummed quietly as the fish moved like shadows across the glass. I laid the photos out on the coffee table like puzzle pieces, the legal documents, the emails, the snapshots of her touching another man's arm, laughing at his jokes, planning a life that didn't include me except as a legal burden. She wasn't just betraying me. She was erasing me. I thought about every time she smiled while handing me tea, every soft kiss goodnight after dosing me with fog, every tender touch that now felt like preparation for the slaughter. And yet, even as the fury swelled, a strange calm settled over me. Because now I knew there was no room for confusion anymore, no room for doubt. The game wasn't just in play, it was on the clock. She was building her case, which meant I had to build mine faster. 2 days later, I met Ramos again, this time in his cramped office above a defunct bookstore. Walls lined with case files and dust. He handed me a small hard drive. "Here," he said. "Full surveillance package, photos, audio, timestamps. Even got her talking to the lawyer outside, some useful stuff about strategy and timing." I nodded. "Good. I'm gonna give her everything she wants." Ramos raised an eyebrow. "Say that again?" "I'm gonna let her push forward. Let her think I'm sinking. I'll even let her file." I want her to try to take it to court. You're playing with fire, Hugh. I smiled for the first time in weeks. A real smile. Not playing. I'm setting the trap. My wife tried to poison me slowly, so I let her think it worked. But when I told my family, it was like I'd lost my mind. I called my sister Lisa first. I had rehearsed what I was going to say 1,000 times, but the words still felt strange leaving my mouth. Lisa, I think Oprah's been poisoning me. There was a long pause on the other end. Then, a burst of laughter. Not the kind that comes with joy, but the cruel, disbelieving kind. Come on, Hugh. Poisoning? Really? Oprah? You're Oprah? I could almost hear her shaking her head. You're stressed. You've been working too hard. Maybe you're just imagining things. I wanted to shout, to scream that I had proof, that I was living it every day. The fog, the memory lapses, the dizziness. But all I could do was swallow hard. Okay, I said quietly. I thought you should know. She sighed. Look, maybe take a vacation. Clear your head. I hung up before I could say anything else. Then came my parents. I showed them the pictures, the documents, the notes I'd collected with Ramos. I laid everything out on their dining room table, the familiar floral cloth that always reminded me of Sunday dinners. Mom gave me a sympathetic look, then glanced at Dad. Well, honey, maybe you're just burnt out. You've been so tired lately. Dad nodded slowly. You've been working long hours. Maybe it's depression. Happens to a lot of people. I felt the walls closing in. How can you not see it? She's trying to take everything from me. My house, my money, my freedom. And worse, she's poisoning me. Mom reached out and took my hand. Hugh, maybe you're under a lot of stress. Sometimes our minds play tricks when we're overwhelmed. I wanted to scream, to shake them, to make them believe. But instead, I forced a weak smile. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. Behind their understanding eyes, I saw doubt and disbelief. Oprah was a master manipulator. She knew exactly what to say to each of them. With my family, she played the part of the devoted wife, tired, worried, scared of losing the man she loved. At family dinners, she'd bring up how hard Hugh's been working, how he's just been exhausted lately, and how she was trying to support him through these difficult times. She cried sometimes, real tears, practiced to perfection. Her hands would tremble when she talked about the fear of losing everything, and how she was just trying to protect the family. Everyone, except me, bought it. Her smiles were like knives hidden behind velvet. Her care, a trap. I watched as the people I trusted began to drift away, caught in her web of lies. I found myself alone more and more. Calls from friends became fewer. I stopped inviting people over. The house felt cold, even with the sunlight streaming in through the windows. The isolation wrapped around me like a thick fog, darker than any poison. I logged into a video chat one evening, hoping to find some comfort in my sister's face. Lisa's screen lit up. Hey, Hugh, she said, a forced smile plastered on. I wanted to tell her everything, about the tablets, the documents, the man she was meeting behind my back, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I asked quietly, "Do you still think I'm crazy?" She hesitated, then shook her head. "No, I just wish I could help." I shut my laptop, feeling emptier than ever. That night, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the ceiling. I thought about giving up, letting Oprah win. But then, beneath the exhaustion and doubt, a tiny spark flickered. She could fool everyone else, but she wouldn't fool me. Not anymore. My wife tried to poison me slowly, so I let her think it worked. But tonight, the game was over. I had invited everyone, my sister Lisa, my parents, a few close friends I could still trust. The house buzzed with quiet chatter and clinking glasses. Oprah moved around the room like a queen, radiant and composed, her smile the perfect mask. "Look at Hugh," she said softly to my mother as I shuffled past. "He's just so tired lately. It's been hard on him." Mom nodded, concern etched on her face. They all saw what Oprah wanted them to see, a fragile, broken man and the devoted wife trying to hold the pieces together. I played the part perfectly. I barely lifted my glass. I slurred my words when I spoke, struggled to remember names, dropped the fork once or twice. "I'm just so exhausted," I mumbled, the weight of my act pressing on me, but necessary. Oprah's smile widened. She glanced at the others, her eyes shining with triumph. But no one knew what was coming. After dinner, I asked everyone to follow me to the living room. The projector was set up, its hum filling the quiet space. I had planned this night for weeks. I cleared my throat and began. "Thank you all for coming. There's something important I need to show you." I pressed play. The room darkened. On the screen, the video started, grainy but clear. There was Opra, early morning, the kitchen light casting shadows. She opened a small unmarked bottle, shook out a handful of white tablets, and slipped them into my teacup. A gasp escaped from Lisa's lips. I heard my mother mutter, "Oh my God." The video ended. Then, without pause, I played the audio recordings. "Yes, we need to move quickly. He's getting weaker. We can claim he's unfit to manage his affairs," Oprah's voice said in a clipped whisper during one call. Another voice, a lawyer's, confirmed, "We'll file for guardianship. It'll be swift if we present the medical evidence." The room was silent, thick with shock. Then, Ramos's photos flashed on the screen. There was Opra, meeting a man in a dimly lit cafe, their heads close, hands almost touching. Lisa's tears started to flow. I didn't want to believe it, but my father leaned forward, jaw tight. Oprah's face went pale in the flickering light from the projector. When the video ended, the room erupted. "She's lying," Opra hissed, voice sharp, eyes wild. "This is all fabricated, a setup." "No," I said firmly, standing tall despite the exhaustion. "This is the truth, the tablets, the lies, the man behind your back. You wanted to control me, to break me, but I'm still here." Lisa sobbed openly. "Why, Opra? Why do this?" Oprah's fury boiled over. "You think you're so clever, Hugh? You're pathetic. I never tried to poison you. This is revenge for what? Your paranoia?" But no one believed her anymore. My mother covered her mouth, shaking her head. My father looked at me with pride. "Son, I'm sorry we doubted you." Friends whispered, their eyes wide with disbelief. Oprah's mask cracked, revealing a woman desperate and defeated. For the first time, the silence wasn't oppressive. It was a breath of freedom. Tonight, I was no longer the victim. Tonight, I was the one holding the cards. The day I filed for divorce was both the hardest and the easiest day of my life. I sat across from my lawyer, Emily, a sharp woman with no patience for nonsense. She had seen enough of these cases to know when a client had a rock-solid case. "We have everything we need," she said confidently. "Medical records, video evidence, witness statements. They won't be able to deny it." I nodded, feeling a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. After months of playing the part, the confused, fading husband, now it was time to reclaim my life. Opra didn't take the news well. The court papers hit her like a thunderclap. First came the summons for questioning. Her calls stopped answering, and when she did pick up, her voice was brittle, strained. "Why are you doing this, Hugh?" she pleaded once. I stayed calm. "Because you tried to poison me. Because I can't live in a house where the person I trusted is trying to destroy me." Weeks passed, like a slow, grinding storm. News leaked, whispers spread. Opra lost her job. The company couldn't risk the scandal. Her reputation crumbled in a city that thrives on appearances. I watched from a distance, the anger inside me melting into something quieter. I wasn't gloating, I was healing. The family that had doubted me came around. My sister Lisa called one evening. "Hugh, I'm so sorry. We should have believed you." My parents stopped by my place, awkward but sincere. "I was blind," Mom said, eyes wet. "We all were." I forgave them, not because I had to, because I wanted to close that chapter, but I didn't let them back into my heart fully. Distance was the new rule. I was learning to be alone, but not lonely. One bright morning, I found myself sitting in a small cafe, the smell of fresh coffee mingling with the morning rush. I looked out the window, watching people pass by, lost in their own worlds. A smile spread across my face, genuine, light, and free. She wanted me gone, legally, emotionally. I let her think she won, and that was the beginning of her end. The past was a weight lifted, but the future, that was mine to write.